This is a lesson on Chapter 10, assignment number 3, the notes for naming arcs and finding their measures. So, a central angle is an angle whose vertex is at the center of a circle, and in this circle, angle C is the central angle. The name of the shorter curve that goes between points A and B is called a minor arc. AB, which is written as the letters AB with an arc on top. And so this is arc AB. And the longer curve that goes between points A and B that passes through D is called a major arc. And it is written as A, D, B with an arc on top. And it wouldn't matter if you said D or B, D, A. The order of the letters isn't significant as long as the ending point and the starting point are what you would want. And then you need a third letter if you mean to go all the way around the long way. It always takes 3 points to name a major arc. And then one of the things that we do with arcs is we measure the number of degrees in the arc. So the measure of an arc is equal to the measure of its central angle. Measure of arc AB, and notice the arc that's here on top. I'm having trouble getting the PDF version to print these little arc symbols. So you need to draw them on every time you see them on my note page, which is going to be all over the place. So the measure of arc AB is equal to some amount of degrees, and it's just equal to the same number of degrees that it has in its central angle. So since this central angle is 50 degrees, the arc that it intersects is also 50 degrees. And that really is the heart of the lesson right there. But we'll keep going and fill in some of these other details. So the measure of arc ADB would be the arc starting here and going around to here. So it's going to be a much higher number of degrees than 50. And I'm hoping that you remember from some previous knowledge that the number of degrees in a circular arc all the way around is 360 degrees. So to get the measure of arc ADB, remember to put the arc on top here, you would just do 360 minus 50 to get the measure of that arc, which would be 310 degrees. A degree symbol should be up a little higher. This next bit over here is that if an arc is a semicircle, that means halfway around the circle exactly, then the measure of that arc would be half of 360, or 180. So we could add here, if an arc is a whole circle, then its measure is 360 degrees. All right, so we're going to look at here example 1. It says circle P has a diameter RT. If you see a line that goes through the center like this and appears to be straight, you can assume that it's straight, but it is kind of nice to see that you know that this RT is a diameter. It's cutting the circle into 2 congruent pieces. So RS, the arc here, is asking you for what type of arc it is. So is the arc between R and S a major arc or a minor arc? and in this case it is a minor arc. Because if it's using two letters, then it always means the shorter curve between R and S. Whereas RTS, the arc that goes from R to T to S, is a major arc. I'm going to use my pinkish color for that. Notice that these arcs might not have printed on your sheet. Please fill them in. It doesn't make any sense to just have R to S without the arc on top and then call it a minor arc. So you got to fill those in. Then to find the measure of these arcs, you just find the measure of the central angle. So the minor arc between R and S is 110 degrees. The minor arc between T and S has to add up to, well, this arc and this whole arc here from RS to T is a semicircle. So then this little piece has to combine to equal 180 with 110. So it must be 70 degrees. And I'm getting that by doing 180 minus 110 in my head. The arc from R to T to S would be 180 to get from R to T plus the 70 degrees that we just got for that one. So going from R to T to S would be 180 plus 70 would be 250. And I got that by doing 180 plus 70. Or you could have thought of it as 360 minus 110. That would work also. Then the measure of arc RST is 180. That would be this arc. And so RST is a semicircle. Why don't you pause the video for just a second and try to fill in these values, and then turn it back on and check to see if you got it right. Please pause it and try it so that you can know if you're doing them correctly. And all right, so hopefully you paused it, and the measure of G, the arc from G to E would be this, which is 40 plus 80 or 120. The measure of the arc from GEF would be 120 plus 110, G to E to F, and it would have to be the long way around, not this shorter bit, because it's using three letters. So that would be 230. And the measure of arc GF would be this one, the shorter distance between G to F, not the long way around, but the shorter way around, and that would be 130. You would have gotten that by 360 minus 230. And the measure of arc GFE, GFE would be 130 plus 110, or 240. And then here you got to be careful. The measure of arc, the arc from H to F, is going to be, is going to be this one, because it has to be less than 180 degrees if it's only using two letters. Two letters, minor arc, meaning less than 180. So if this is 40 and this one was 130, right? I could put in 130 here. Then 40 plus 130 is 170. If you got 190, that's what you would get if you started at H and went this way. But 190 is more than 180, so the correct answer to this is 170. All right, moving on a little quicker here. To name the semicircle in this problem, I'm going to name it either, here's a diameter, so I'm going to say TSR, And there would be a variety of ways of naming that. RQT. I think you could probably get away with even just TR, 2 letters, because it's exactly 180. It's a little bit ambiguous of whether you need 2 letters or 3 letters. I think it's a good idea to just go ahead and put 3 for anything 180 or more. So the measure of arc, SR, be sure to put the arc on top. SR would have to be whatever you get if you subtract all 3 of these from 360, or since you know that this is a semicircle, then this must be 100. And an arc that measures 200 degrees, I'm going to need the M to say that I'm measuring it, and an arc to say that it's an arc, and I need 3 letters since this is more than 200 degrees. Let's add one more on here and find one that equals, what is the one? Hang on, we'll do that in a second. So the measure of some arc that equals 200 would have to be 120 plus 80, so you could say STQ or QTS. And the measure of an arc that equals 260 degrees, since that was 200, this is 60, then this could be the measure of an arc STR, but there would be other options also. SQR, RQS. It has to start and end with an S and an R in either order with either T or Q in between. All right, so what if I wanted one that was 60 degrees? Then I would say the measure of arc, and think to yourself how many letters I need here. If this is 60 degrees, it's less than 180, so I only need 2 letters, and I would say Q to R. All right, last one is just a review of circles. You should pause it and see if you remember how to do this from the previous lesson. Hopefully you paused it and you're back. The center of this circle would be -3, +1, and the radius is 2. So if you go to graph this, you'd go over -3 and up 1 with a radius of 2. Don't worry about it if your circles come out a little bit lopsided. Just try your best and make sure that the center is plotted accurately and that you've stated clearly what the radius is, and that will be fine. I know it's a little confusing that these feel backwards, and if we were in class together, I could make some attempts to help that feel better in your brain as to why these things feel backwards, but for now, just go ahead and try and just memorize that they are if this is a +3, then the x value of the center is -3. And if this is a -1, then the y value of the center is +1. The r squared value is 4, which means that r equals 2. All right, good luck. Thanks for watching.